Now, Uganda has, and we're talking with Olara Otunnu. Mr. Olara Otunnu is a former United Nations Undersecretary General and Special Representative for Children and Armed Conflict. In the 1980s, he served as Ambassador and Permanent Representative to the United Nations from Uganda, and also as Minister of Foreign Affairs. You served under the government of Milton Obote.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Olara is also a graduate of Oxford University and Harvard Law and a former assistant professor of law at Albany Law School, and is currently engaged in political activities in Uganda. You were in exile for about 23 years?
Yes, I was outside Uganda for close to 24 years.
Is that self-imposed or?
It was because of my fundamental disagreement with Mr. Museveni, and because Mr. Museveni especially targeted and persecuted me and blocked me from returning to Uganda. So it was not my choice to be outside for these years. It was very much a situation imposed upon me by Mr. Museveni.
And on December 21st, you were involved in an incident in which your vehicle, as you were returning to Kampala from an event the previous day, tell me briefly what happened. There's a question as to whether this was an accident or whether this was an attempted assassination.
Very important question. The previous day, Mr. Museveni and I were both at a ceremony for the consecration of a bishop in northern Uganda. He flew back the Sunday night, the day of the ceremony. I stayed the night and left that morning for Kampala, at a place which would be about 34 kilometers from Kampala. Bright day, bright morning, straight road, both sides you can see far. We see ahead of us a convoy of military trucks moving exceedingly slowly. So we trailed behind it for some time, and then two cars, not ours, which are ahead of us, they signaled to the cars to pass, so the cars passed without incident, and then they signaled to us to pass. We begin to overtake the convoy, and suddenly after we passed two cars, the third car suddenly and sharply cut into the road right in front of us. So we were heading straight, headlong to ram into that truck. The driver, fortunately, took a sharp turn to the right, a sharp, dramatic turn to the right. So we hit the embankment. And since we hit the embankment, he then tried to swerve back onto the road. And as we swerved back onto the road, a second military vehicle moved and blocked our way. This time again, the driver had to swerve back to the right to avoid running into that vehicle, but also avoid being sandwiched. There are now two military trucks with us in the middle. He was successful in moving to the right, averting the worst, but our car nevertheless swiped the side of the military vehicle. Then from there, we were now heading towards a little house and a group of people making charcoal. So the driver had to turn away from hitting those people. This time, he crossed the road right to the opposite side to avoid the military vehicles. And we found ourselves in the bush, heading towards some mango trees. He struggled, brought the car to a halt under the trees. Then, some 40 military persons, some 40 soldiers descended on us, with their guns cocked and at the ready, pointing at us in the car. As they were running towards us, I could hear them calling my name. I was still in the car. I had not come out of the car. And when they surrounded us, I got out of the car, greeted them, and said I wanted to see the officer in charge. As I walked looking for the officer among them, they continued with their guns trained on my head. In the end, I got the officer. I protested. What are the soldiers doing? 40 soldiers training their guns on a civilian car and civilian passengers. So after some exchange, he then ordered them to pull back. Then I asked the officer, "What is your name, officer?" He gave me a fictitious name. I looked at his uniform. The area